is Kate Craighead, and I'm a graduate level nursing student. And the purpose of this video is to express my support for the Investigational Drugs Expanded Access Bill, also known as Senate Bill 732. The purpose of this proposed act would be to allow greater access to drugs and treatment options that are still considered to be investigational or in the clinical trial phases of development. Many also term this expanded access compassionate use, so those terms may be used interchangeably. Sadly, over 500,000 cancer patients and thousands of patients with other terminal illnesses die each year just waiting on new treatment options to gain FDA approval and be placed on the market. Tightly controlled clinical drug trials offer hope to a very select group of patients with terminal illnesses. However, there are many more patients suffering from the very same illness that the medication was designed to treat who may not qualify to take part in these trials because of uncontrollable circumstances such as age, gender, pre-existing medical conditions, or even something as simple as how close they live to a clinical testing site. Just because a person may not meet the enrollment criteria to be involved in this trial does not mean that they should be denied access to life-saving treatment. This availability is important not just to test groups, but also to single patients on an individual basis. Granting more open access would have a tremendous impact on individual families as well as their entire communities. Every person who is turned away from life-saving opportunities serves as an example to their friends and families and communities. Examples of hard work and efforts that have failed, that have just led to disappointment and heartache. These patients are desperate. Access to investigational medication may be their only chance at life. So no patient who is willing to accept the potential risks and complications of treatment should be penalized just simply because they don't live within an established radius of others who have the same type of cancer or terminal illness. They shouldn't be penalized because they just so happen to get cancer a year too early from the drug being released on the market. It's not as though this bill would grant open access to just anyone who wanted to take part in an investigational trial drug. The FDA has outlined regulations to be put in place to ensure that patients with serious or life-threatening diseases or medical conditions who cannot participate in the clinical trial still be able to gain access to such investigational drugs under the right circumstances. The purpose of this expanded access, also termed compassionate use, is not to collect significant additional data or to change the statistics, but rather to save lives with new treatment options when other currently FDA-approved treatments have either been unsuccessful or deemed inappropriate. This is the very purpose, after all, for which these new drugs were created, while this money was put into research and why so much time has been spent coming up with these new treatment opportunities. So what better opportunity to get to use them than on people who really need them? Currently, the FDA and drug manufacturers are the gatekeepers. They're the ones who decide who does and who does not deserve access to new treatments, establishing the criteria that makes a person acceptable test subjects, that makes them able to take part in the clinical trial group. But would this decision not be better made by a healthcare provider who's treating the patient on an individual basis, who has thorough knowledge of their health status and other contributing factors? Some concern has been expressed by drug manufacturers who worry that involving persons outside of clinical trials may slow the eventual approval process and also expose those patients to unknown risks and harm at times. However, each patient who agrees to participate would be made aware of the potential risks that are associated with treatment. In terminal patients, though, unfortunately, the greatest risk would only be a lack of treatment. Action is needed. There's much more to do. There's much more room for improvement in this area. I ask that you please consider allowing patients who have the most to gain and the least to lose to have access to investigational medications. Ultimately, each patient deserves the right to save their own life, and legislation can do much to help that process.